Patriotic Alliance member Bruce Nimmerhoudt has been found not guilty of instigating the 2021 July Unrest. Nimmerhoudt was charged with terrorism and inciting public violence. But today, Judge Ruby Mates ruled that the state failed to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. eNCA's Silindelo Masikane has been following the case and joins me now. Slee, judgment day for Nimmerhoudt. What did the magistrate have to say in her final ruling?
She was quite critical and quite scathing in terms of the state's case against Nimmerhoudt, saying no reasonable court would be able to find him guilty on the evidence that was actually presented, saying that it wasn't about the quantity of the evidence, but the quality, and that it just did not meet the threshold in order to allow her to, or convince her that Nimmerhoudt should not be granted this Section 174 application, and that she sees no reason as to why he needs to defend himself against charges that have not actually been proven at this point by the state. Let's just take a listen to that ruling.
The evidence gathered and presented by the state is of such a poor quality that no reasonable court acting carefully will convict on it. Whereas much more can be said on the state's case. In conclusion, I find that there is a lack of reliable evidence on the identity of the perpetrator of the offence, and there is reasonable doubt regarding the accused's guilt. The application for his discharge is then granted, and the following order is made. The accused is found not guilty.
Slee, we know that voice notes inciting that July unrest formed the basis of this case. What did the magistrate have to say about those voice notes specifically?
So we know that the state was using one voice note in particular that was in circulation that they say went viral back in July 2021. And that particular voice note was then compared to a sample of a voice, Nimmerhoudt's voice, that he gave to the court after going through the investigations. And what the magistrate was saying is that she's not even an expert herself, but she could tell from just listening to both of them back to back that there are differences in the voices. Yes, they're both deep, but you can tell in terms of the tone, the vocabulary, the pronunciation of how Nimmerhoudt speaks, as well as the voice in the voice note, that they are different. So while the voices are similar, they're certainly not the same. Let's take a listen.
Now, I considered the contents of the different voice notes presented in evidence, and in my observation, the properties of differences between Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 includes that the accused's voice, as in Exhibits 2 and 3, is higher pitched as the voice in Exhibit 1. Although, generally, as testified by the state witnesses, both voices may be described as deep or coarse voices. There is further a marked difference, in my observation, in vocabulary choice considered Exhibit 2. There is a striking difference in pronunciation of particular words and phrases, intonation patterns, stress patterns, and speaking rate between Exhibit 1 and 3. I considered that a prosecution is not to be initiated without a minimum standard of evidence.
Slee, terrorism is a very serious charge. Nimmerhoudt has been exonerated. What was his reaction and what happens now?
You can only imagine sheer relief, sheer emotional scenes, in fact, in court, crying. It took him some time to actually stand up from the dock, just, I think, in total disbelief that he actually has cleared his name and he was walking out of the courthouse today, essentially as a free man. We understand from speaking to him outside court that while he is happy, he's, of course, not happy with how the case was run. He believes it was a ploy to kind of frame him. He believes there were motives behind this case, so there are plans, he says, to sue the state for putting him through this process. But he says at some point he will be giving us more information as to who he believes was behind all of this.
We actually do have that short interview. Let's just take a listen.
we went in there with confidence, knowing that from the onset I declared my innocence during the bail hearing, during the bail application. And it was never my intention to prove my innocence, but the state had to prove my guilt. And they failed from the onset right up until today to present to the court any evidence or any fact that I'm guilty. So I am a free man today.
Thank you very much, eNCA's Silindelo Masikane, bringing us that story from the courts.